I'm currently, obviously, at Dad's house in England, and the weather is fantastic. I have been so lucky. It's proper full-on summer. It's a heat wave. It's been between like 27 and 30 degrees for the last few days. Beautiful sun, blue skies. I mean, what more could I ask for? Anyhow, while I was here, I thought I'd do something that I've never done before and take you on a tour, like a reminiscing tour of when I used to live here. The houses I lived in, the school I went to, things I remember, things that were important to me as I grew up, and take you around and show the area because I've never done it. I've never really talked about it. This is not the house that I grew up in. This house, Dad moved here about 13 years ago and he was downsizing from the bigger family home that we used to live in that had a much bigger garden and was a little bit too much for him to handle. So he wanted something easier to look after. Still quite a big house, but still there's a lot of us that come back and visit and stay quite often. So I was brought up in a nearby town, Walton on Thames. This is Cobham. And even though my brother went to school here, and I have a lot of friends here in this town still to this day, I didn't grow up here. So Walton on Thames is about a 10-minute drive from here, and that's the town that I was brought up in. So we're going to head over towards Walton on Thames, and we're going to start with the first house that I lived in for the first 7 years of my life.
Was it 7 years?
I lived there until, yeah, and then, yeah.
Oh, okay. I had a feeling it was 4 years, but...
No, because when we went to Old Avenue, I was 8.
Oh, okay, you're right, I'm wrong.
And we lived there till I was 10.
Yeah, keep away from the drains.
And it's hard when there's a car coming at me. Not much space. So this is the first house that I lived in, the one with the taxi outside. And there used to be an apple tree in the front garden. There isn't anymore. And there was a eucalyptus tree in the back garden. So this is the house where we had the beehives, isn't it?
This is the beehives. This is where I found the swarm one day. We tried to pick them up and they all went down my back.
Ah!
I got stung all over my back and neck, and I was going to work with all these big stings.
Ow.
Very, very painful.
I remember them swarming.
Yeah, and I think the reason is from next door to where we live, there's a giant mulberry tree. All the mulberries were dropping.
Okay, yeah.
I imagine they were feeding.
And there was a eucalyptus tree on this side, wasn't there?
Yeah. It's such a long time ago. I was only a youth at the time.
Yeah, you were younger than I am now.
Young boy.
Just round the corner from where that first house was is my first school. So this is where I went to nursery and elementary school up until the age of 7, and then I changed. So this is Danesfield School. It's very, very different from how it was back then. I can remember being in that classroom there and the one next door to it as well. And in this classroom here, it's where I met my friend Rachel, who I was actually with yesterday. I can see that they've now got a swimming pool over in that building there. There used to be a little paddling pool in the very back garden, but definitely wasn't a swimming pool when I was here. So it really is just round the corner, and every morning we would walk from home round here, and I'd be dropped off. I'd be wearing my little boater hat in the summer and a little beret in the winter, a little blue and white school uniform. It was a lovely uniform, actually. We're now in the centre of Walton on Thames, and I'm just going to drive through the main street. This town was completely remodelled about 20 years ago. They knocked down the whole town centre and rebuilt it. But we're just going to drive up the high street and go past it, because at the very end of the high street is the River Thames. So this is where I used to hang out when I was little. I used to come to McDonald's with my friends. We'd come to the cinema. We'd come to Woolworths and buy sweeties.
Thames, in actual fact, there's an old pub there that used to be a cinema.
Did it?
Famous
The
cinema,
Regent?
yes.
I didn't know that.
The Regent, that's why it's called that.
So Dad's just brought me to this little park by the river that I don't remember at all. I don't remember ever being here. But you say that I've come here.
Yeah, I used to bring you here as a kid, you and Dan, and we used to walk through the park here, down to the river, and then up to Sunbury Lock.
Okay, I remember that, but I don't remember the park.
Well, that was the way we used to park just down round the corner here. It was always full of kids here in the summer, school holidays, and it's a nice walk. Walton Bridge is about a quarter of a mile there, and history has it's where Julius Caesar crossed the river.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's in the history books. Whether we did, I mean, I don't think there was a toll fee in those days, but there's a new bridge there. And at home, we have a picture of the original bridge.
Yes. So we've got a blue plaque on the wall here. Now, in England, blue plaques mean that there is something of historical significance happened in the building. So this one is Sir Arthur Sullivan lived and worked in this house, and that would be Mr. Sullivan from Gilbert and Sullivan.
That's correct. So what we would do, we would just walk down to the River Thames, which is 50 yards away, maybe not even that.
Okay.
Just have a look, and people out, possibly on a sunny day like this, usually the river's very busy.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of boats down there. But this is a very pretty area. And someone's put a memorial on the seats, which is a tradition in this country. Someone who passed away, and they put anniversary flowers on the seats.
So here we are. This is the lovely River Thames on a hot and sunny Saturday morning. Now, I have mentioned this before, but one of the huge differences I find between Italy and England is the use of the riverways and lakes. In England, the river is really, really busy. There's people on boats, people on stand-up paddle boards, there's people feeding ducks, there's all sorts of things going on, and lots of kids do rowing at school these days, so there's lots of rowing.
Hello.
Lots of swans.
Hello, look. Hello. Hello.
And in Italy, it's not like that at all. We live quite close to the River Arno, which is the river that flows through Pisa and Florence. And it is completely empty. There's no boats. You don't see any boat traffic at all. You hardly ever see anybody on a kayak. And there's no pathways like this along the side of the river for people to walk along and enjoy, which is a real shame because it's such a lovely place to be.
And this is part of the long pathway where you can walk the river from London right up to the source in Oxford.
Yes. And how far did you walk? You started it a couple of years ago, didn't you?
We've done about 80, 90 miles, maybe 100 miles.
Last year? Was it last year?
Year before last, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you started at
Georgie started I started at the Thames Barrier.
Okay.
And we ended up eventually at Henley, which is quite a way up.
Yeah.
And not at once, it was over a number of weekends.
Well, it's not a bad thing to do at 90 years old.
It's not too bad.
So this is one of the riverside pubs in Walton where we would always come and sit down and have a drink in the sun. So a lot of these boats are homes, so a lot of people live on the river these days. It's cheaper than renting an apartment. God, I have to do this all the time.
It's very cool in there, look.
I know. I'm surprised people go in.
Well, they do, and they do have Mouldy. They have a big crowd of people over there.
So, some famous residents of Walton on Thames. the jam man, of course. Me. No, Julie Andrews was born here. Julie Andrews, obviously the original Mary Poppins. Maria from The Sound of Music. She was born in Walton on Thames and lived here when she was younger. Kate Winslet had a house on the river.
That's right.
On one of the islands for a few years at one point. And who else?
Arthur Sullivan,
Gilbert and Sullivan. And then up in Waybridge, which is just next door to Walton, there was many, many more because there is the Beverly Hills of England housing estate. St George's Hill is stuffed full of...
John Lennon, all those.
Oh yeah, the Beatles. Yeah,
managers.
Yes. I actually had the same driving instructor that John Lennon had.
Oh, did you?
Yes. Do you remember the old man who taught me?
Yes, I do.
He retired after me, but I was his last student. I think John Lennon was probably one of his first students, but yes, I had the same driving teacher. Incredible.
And the King of Jordan used to have a home there with lots of protection when he was in the UK.
And Cliff Richards.
Cliff Richards lived there in Yaffle Road.
I think some of the Formula One drivers as well.
There's got quite a lot of, it's very expensive.
Yeah, and Antonio Banderas, doesn't he have a house in Waybridge?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and also where your photographer friend used to live just outside the President of the United
yes.
States.
Yes, Hoover.
Who was it?
Was
Hoover?
it Hoover?
Yeah.
Hubert Hoover? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yes, he lived in the White House, funnily enough,
Yeah.
which is where I had a photographer colleague who I would go and do magazine shoots with when I was a beginning makeup artist. So now we're on our way to Waybridge, where I spent the next few years of my life, because when I was seven, we moved from Walton to the next town, Waybridge, and lived there for a few years. We're now walking down Queen's Road in Waybridge. This is not the main high street. This is just a little parade of shops halfway between Waybridge and Walton. And along here is where I had my first ever job. So nowadays, this is a Tesco's Express mini supermarket. When I worked here, it was called Cullen's, and it was a little posh delicatessen with a proper deli counter and freshly baked baguettes, and there was carrot cake and chocolate fudge cake and slices of ham and olives and all sorts of things. I was paid £2 an hour, which was a fortune for me at the time, and I would work on Saturdays and Sundays, and then I would also do bank holidays where we'd get paid double. So from the shops there, we've just walked up this road and we're just coming up to our next house, the Chestnuts. This is it here. And we lived here for about 2 years, 3 years? 3 years. There used to be a big chestnut tree right in the front garden.
We were only here for about 3 or 4 years. Had a beautiful hallway with
Galleried.
a galleried
Yeah.
landing. Big attic where you could put 3 or 4 rooms in the attic. I did some alteration, not very many. We were only here for 3 or 4 years. I did put on the garage door, the new garage door, and it's still there, so it's stood the test of time. I was only a young boy at the time, by the way.
And that house sign as well, that was ours.
Yes.
We left that there, of course. Didn't you fall out of that top window once into the rose bush below?
I think I did. I think it was a middle window, actually. I'm not sure it was a total.
But you did fall out of a window into a rose bush.
Yeah. Yes.
I remember that.
Very thorny.
Yeah.
Very thorny.
And from the house, which is just there, when I was 10 years old, I was allowed to walk all the way down this road, cross over 2, 3 roads to go to the post office and post a letter for mummy. And that was a big thing, I think. I don't think nowadays they would let a 10-year-old do that on their own. It was obviously much, much safer back then.
We're not far from St George's Hill now, which is where all the very expensive houses. It's a lovely estate. Many famous people we mentioned earlier on lived there. Tom Jones lived there for many years. Also, his manager, Gordon Mills, sadly no longer with us. But Gordon Mills had in his garden, call it a garden, it's more like a safari park, he had many wild animals. And within the park there's a famous St George's Hill Tennis Club with its restaurant around the lakeside. And one could sit at the lakeside eating and hearing the roar of tigers, lions, or whatever it was. It was quite interesting.
Yeah, I remember going there at night time and trying to see across to see the animals at some point. I don't know if they were even still there back then, but I remember we tried to get into the garden to see them once.
Yes.
Naughtily.
And Tom used to occasionally go up on the train from Walton-on-Thames station to London when he was working. And a couple of times Mum happened to meet him on the train, and he was always very talkative, lovely guy.
And here's the post box that I was allowed to walk to. Now this shop, which is actually a vet now, this used to be the local post office and sweet shop. And just in this side of the window here would be all of the selection of mix and match sweets. They were 1p each. And it is generally where I would come and spend my pocket money, which was probably about 20p. When I was about 24, I finally, very late, moved out of my parents' house and moved into one of these flats here. I can't remember actually which one, but I lived here for a few months with my friend Dorian, and it was great fun, but he was out at work all day and I'd get very lonely. So every day I would get in my little car, drive back to my parents' house and hang out with them for the day if I wasn't working. A few months after that, I made the life-changing decision to go to Italy and ended up staying. So this was just a very, very brief home. So this pub here, was quite a big part of my life from the age of about 17 till about 20, I would say, maybe even less. But it was one of, I think it was the fourth biggest pub in Britain at the time. I don't know about now. It was a very big pub and it was a huge meeting place on a Friday and Saturday night. And this is where everybody would come and hang out. And this is way back in 1991 and 92 when there was all of the illegal raves and house parties going on in England. There's a big car park right here and everybody would meet up and there'd be like a lead car which would take you off into the woods, maybe even an hour's drive away, where there'd be a huge illegal rave set up in a field or in a woodland. And it was pretty amazing and it was always a fun place to be because you never quite knew what was going to happen after the night at the pub finished. But it was a very, very popular place, very, very busy, lots and lots of people always here, and I had a lot of fun here. There were always bouncers on the door. You had to show your ID to get in to prove that you were over 18. I think a lot of us weren't and we had fake IDs. I think I've still probably got mine somewhere. I have been back in there. I came back here about 2 years ago, actually. I met up with some friends from this town who used to be part of that group there, and we met up for drinks one night here. It's been completely refurbished. It's not at all the same as it used to be. It used to be a big, big room with the bar in the middle, and you could walk round and round and round, and everybody would walk round seeing who else was there. And it's a bit more set out in little areas and rooms now. But it is lovely to come back and reminisce and see all these places and remember how they used to be. There has been terrible traffic today. One of the main roads in the area that leads to London has been closed for roadworks, and it's been really, really hard to get around because there's huge detours and deviations all around the place. So this traffic has been terrible, and I haven't been able to get to as many places as I hoped to, but that's fine because the video is actually longer than I thought it was going to be anyway. The one main place that I did want to take you to, which has proved impossible to get into, it was my secondary school, the school that I went to after I left Danesfield from the age of 7 to 16 years old. I went to Claremont School in Esher, and unfortunately it's like Fort Knox now. It's completely gated off, you can't get into it at all. So all I could do was just pull up outside the entrance and show you from afar. It's a beautiful old building. It's on landscaped gardens designed by Capability Brown, and the manor house itself used to be one of Queen Victoria's summer residences, apparently. Inside, some of the classrooms still have silk brocade wallpaper. I mean, it's a stunning, stunning building, lots of Regency ceilings and stuff. And I can remember that the room that we studied English literature in, we were told, was the room that Princess Charlotte died in childbirth. There's all sorts of historical things around the property, but maybe I could get permission to show you that another time. I don't know. Anyhow, we're back home now. We're going to relax this afternoon in the sunshine, and I hope you've enjoyed this little trip down memory lane with me. Thanks for watching. See you all soon. Bye.